G'day and welcome to Property, Australia's favourite obsession. My name's Jeremy Cannon and today I want to continue with my formula for real estate profits. See, what I want to show you is why property is such a fantastic investment, and it's because it must go up in value over time. And I explained the reason for this last episode. It's all because of what we call the effortless advantage. That as a society and an economy, as we become more and more productive, these productivity gains must be built back into real estate prices. This is simply because the more productive we are, the more profitable we are. And the more profitable we are, the more money we will have to bid up the price of real estate in the most desirable location. It's all about human ingenuity. That humans have an insatiable appetite for improvement, which will bring about an increase in our efficiency, and any such productive gains will be fed back into property prices. Remember, the more productive we are, the more profitable, and this increased profitability will be used to try and acquire the most productive real estate, the most productive farmlands, of course the most suitable business locations, and of course the most desirable homes. So with increased profits in our pockets, we will show up at auction and we will bid away, forcing prices higher and higher. And this brings us to our 5 drivers, the 5 underlying drivers of property prices. See, it's these drivers that have been there throughout history. In fact, you can look back as far as you want and you'll see these drivers in action. Maybe with the exception of credit, but all the drivers are present. Infrastructure, technology, population, government-granted licenses, and of course credit. It's really about humans continually wanting to strive for advancement. We're wired that way, to always try and create more or better with less. Less effort, less cost, less inputs. And that's what these drivers enable. They enable human ingenuity to be converted into productivity. Now you'll find that these drivers are typically intertwined, that one can't exist without another. But we will examine them separately, but in real life, remember, they do actually act together. So let's start with infrastructure. Infrastructure plays a vital place in facilitating increased productivity. Infrastructure is like the great connector as it facilitates other drivers. See, try and imagine a town or a city without roads, or without electricity poles to provide power. Clearly, such infrastructure has a massive impact on productivity. Think about the infrastructure at a port that enables a ship to load and unload, and for those containers to further be moved around the country by rail or road. The goods that pass through a port are vital in enabling our economy to function. Transportation infrastructure has a massive effect on the productivity and hence profitability of our economy. But it's more than just that. Think about if you owned a restaurant, but the only way to get there was via car. There was no bus or train connections, and to make matters worse, the surrounding car park availability was scarce. So what would happen if a bus stop was suddenly placed out the front of your restaurant, enabling customers to more easily access it? What about if a rail station was then built? This, of course, would help facilitate people to come to your restaurant. What if a 50,000 person sporting arena was conducted within walking distance? That infrastructure there is going to attract more and more people, and those people will walk right past your restaurant, increasing your customer numbers. So what if a university was built catering to thousands of students next door that were there all day, every day of the working week? This is the impact that infrastructure can have, and the impact that it can have on the locational advantage of a particular piece of land. I've previously used the example of 200-acre farms that you could choose, one being dry and arid and the other having the lush green pastures. Now, of course, given that choice, you're always going to choose the lush green pastures as your farm. But what if we had 2 lush green pastures, but there was a little bit different? That one of the farms had quick and easy access to rail yards, enabling them to move their produce quickly and more cheaply to market than the other farm? What if this farm had extensive sheds, perfect fences, 5G coverage enabling the smart irrigation and automatic feed dispensing so that optimal amounts of feed and water were provided without waste? Such infrastructure will have a dramatic effect to the productivity and hence profitability of the farm. And as land is priced upon the future profitability, it will surely be priced higher. But remember, all this can work in reverse. And this is the case when you see a new highway bypass a small country town. The effect of the new highway will reduce traffic flow to the small town and have the opposite effect, reducing productivity and hence reducing profitability, and thus placing downward pressure on the value of the town. See, infrastructure is a great productivity driver, and it really probably shows why we're willing to pay a toll to access faster routes. Understanding the 5 drivers is of paramount importance, and you must understand how infrastructure impacts property prices. It's very, very important because each infrastructure project can have a positive or a negative effect on land prices. A new freeway may increase property prices as it connects different cities. However, should your town be bypassed, that's not so great. And the same logic can be used for your nice quiet suburban house that suddenly has a new busy train line running just behind your back fence, disturbing your serenity. Of course, such an infrastructure project there is going to be placing downward pressure on prices and not upward pressure. Episode 18 that I recorded with Jack Pinson about Gander Airport is all about this. See, Gander had a locational advantage because of its position as the closest point for transatlantic travel. But the location on its own was no help without the infrastructure of the airport. Once the airport was completed, Gander quickly became the busiest place, the busiest airport in the world. It's an amazing story, and it's a fantastic example of the impact that infrastructure can have. Now, the 5 drivers are at the core of my formula for real estate profits. It's from these drivers that human ingenuity in the form of increased productivity manifests. Now, we've covered the first driver, infrastructure, today, and over the coming episodes we'll cover the rest: technology, population, government-granted licenses, and of course, credit. Now, once you accept the concept of the effortless advantage that all productivity gains will end up driving real estate prices higher, then it's only a matter of recognizing the drivers in action to identify where you should be purchasing property, because these drivers will force prices higher. It's what makes property such a great investment. Now, I'll be back next week with part 3 of my formula for real estate profits, where together we'll consider the role of technology as a driver of property prices. Because technology has a huge impact on prices, but it's rarely considered as to how it drives property prices. So let's wrap it up there. I hope you've enjoyed this part 2 of the mini-series of my formula for real estate profits. If you've got any questions or feedback, please DM me on our Facebook and Insta page. Just search PAFO Pod, so that's the acronym for Property Australia's Favourite Obsession, PAFO Pod. And don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave us a rating or review for Property Australia's Favourite Obsession. My name's Jeremy Cowden and I've been your host. So until next time, let's keep obsessing about property.
Any opinions or recommendations expressed should be considered general in nature, as they do not consider your personal objectives or financial circumstances. You should therefore consider these matters yourself before deciding whether the advice is appropriate to you and if you should act upon it. Should advice be sought, please seek an appropriately qualified advisor. Investing may not be appropriate for everyone, as there is inherent risk and the possibility of loss when investing in financial assets, just as there is the possibility of profits. While useful for identifying patterns, history and past performance do not guarantee future performance. Cowan & Flack has a commercial relationship with guests appearing on this production.